At the Rutherford Institute, we're involved in litigation with public schools throughout the school year, usually. Not that we target schools, but we get a lot of parents and students who contact us on various issues. Zero tolerance, some kinds of discipline which go much too far, the way discipline is handled in public schools, and most recently, some questions that young children are being asked on different kinds of tests. The Youth Risk Behavior Survey is a test that's being given to children in at least 45 states across the United States. We recently received a call from a mother in Massachusetts who was greatly concerned because her 7th grade and her 8th grade daughter were asked some questions on this particular survey, which greatly upset her. One reason it upset her is that she had never seen the test before, did not know beforehand that her children were taking it. The school practice was called so-called passive consent. They sent a note home in the lunchbox or in the child's coat. And as you know, if you're a parent or even a child, the chance of those notes ever getting home or being seen by a parent are very, very rare. So most parents do not know their children are taking these tests. Let me give you some of the questions. These are, again, middle school children, 7th and 8th grade children being asked questions like this. Have you ever tried to kill yourself? Have you ever sniffed glue or breathed the contents of spray cans or inhaled any paints? With how many people have you had sexual intercourse? True or false? I feel comfortable talking with any partner I have about using a condom. True or false? I've had oral sex at some point in my life. Then there are the various multiple choice questions, which, although they're questions, they seem to kind of indoctrinate in some terminology that most, in my opinion, most 7th and 8th graders would have no idea what's being talked about. But some ideas are planted in their heads. For example, during your life, how many times have you used heroin, also called smack, junk, or China white? Another question goes to prescription drugs. During your life, how many times have you taken a prescription drug, such as OxyContin, Adderall, Ritalin, or Xanax without a doctor's prescription? I don't know what some of these things mean. If you'd asked me what China white was, I would have thought you were talking about dishes. Then we get to the sex questions, the multiple choice questions. Let me give you a few of those. As for sex, the survey asked, the last time you had sexual intercourse, what one method did you or your partner use to prevent pregnancy? There are different levels asked, about 7 or 8, but one is I've never had sexual intercourse, another is birth control pills, another is condoms, and actually one method to either prevent pregnancy, the word on the form is withdrawal. I would go so far to say this, in the neighborhood I live in, if I walked down the street with my granddaughter and saw 3 or 4 kids and asked these very same questions, and again, I'm the father of 5 children, I think within 30 minutes, the police would probably be at my door wondering if I'm a pedophile or not. That's how intrusive these questions are. And the point, though, is that these questions are being asked of a lot of school children without parental consent. There is a federal law which requires written consent before matters of privacy or intimate matters are asked of children. The schools are skirting that by, as I said earlier, with the so-called passive consent rule. They send a note home and say, if you don't object, we're going to give this test to your children. So what's the solution? One, know your rights. Under federal law, you do have a right to have written consent before your child takes these kind of questions. Go to your local school board, get involved in your schools. I think these things happen and parents' rights get undermined because parents are not involved. Go to your school, and if they're going to give these tests to the kids, the school should post these surveys on the school website. You as a parent should be able to go on that website, read the questions, and see if you want your child asked these kind of questions. If you don't object, then that's just fine. You have a right as a parent to have your child ask these kind of questions. If you object, then I would ask for enforcement of federal law, and this is set forth clearly in a commentary that I've written on this particular subject that you can read at rutherford.org. It's much more detailed than anything I can say here. But get involved, require written consent if you don't want your child taking these kind of questions. And I'm seeing the battle in the so-called battle in public schools coming down essentially to parental rights. Do you as a parent, once your child goes to school, have any rights at all? There are many state officials, government officials that argue today that once a child goes into that schoolhouse door, they are a ward of the state. If this is true, it's reversed hundreds of years of law, Supreme Court cases, and if you lose any influence over your child during the day, then all you have left, in my opinion, is a very statist society where children will be very conformed and they'll be subjected to things like this, which I don't think children should be subjected to unless parents consent.